Rand Water has responded to reports of looming water cuts in Gauteng this coming weekend. It intends to conduct maintenance work on one of the pipelines in the Garthdale area. Let's speak now to Eddie Singo, Executive Manager for Zuikerbosch Water Purification Plant. Eddie, I hope I got the title right. A very good afternoon. Thank you so much for being with us today. Give us confirmation first of whether or not there will be areas in Gauteng where there'll be no water at all while you do this work.
Good afternoon, Temegile, and good afternoon to the listeners of Newzroom Afrika. Perhaps before I respond to that, let me give a bit of background so that people get to understand the view. So we have identified a piece of a pipeline that is 2.3 kilometers long that needs to be replaced as a result of it having been in the ground for a number of years. So the condition assessment that was conducted there was basically saying in a few years' time it probably will be leaking. So we have laid a parallel line to replace that piece. Now this weekend we are then connecting up that parallel line, removing the weaker pipeline. Now, when we do that work, which we have planned it for 87.5 hours, before we do that, we then fill up all the reservoirs. Our reservoirs that will be supplying areas that may be affected. So let's underline the word may be affected. So our Purification reservoir, which is our main one, has been increased in terms of capacity. Municipalities have done exactly the same. So we say maybe because we will be having what we term adequate supply of water in the system. The consumers then are urged to use water sparingly. In the event that the consumers do not use water sparingly, that is where they then deplete the levels of those reservoirs. And when they deplete that, chances are that some areas will have low pressure, some areas may not have water, and we are talking about high-lying areas that may not have water. So that depends on you and I as an end user in terms of how we use that water.
Right.
So it's not a definite.
Okay, just on that then, because I want to get an idea now of how it would work. So you're filling reservoirs, right, ahead of this maintenance work, well, basically the changing of this pipeline. How much water ordinarily from these reservoirs, how much would the water be able to last under normal circumstances?
So ordinarily, on a daily basis, we pump through the Palmit system 1,850 million liters per day. We are only reducing that to 1,670 million liters per day. So we are only reducing 8.7% of the water.
So under normal circumstances, is that, pardon me, because I'm just trying to break it down for all of us to follow properly, is that an amount of water in the reservoirs that would be able to last from today, tonight is when you're going to begin the maintenance work, until, say, Tuesday, which is when it's expected to conclude?
Ordinarily, that should be adequate. We also have contingency plans where we will be diverting water from one of our 9 systems into this system, bypassing the line that we are using. Of course, that will be robbing Paul to feed Peter. We don't want to get to that level because we don't want to spread the challenge. What we've got in the system, in those reservoirs, should be adequate to get us by until Tuesday morning. And it really fully depends on us as end users using water sparingly. So what does that mean? It means that we need to then avoid, watering our gardens. So sprinklers should be off during that period, filling up our swimming pools, washing of cars, all of these things that can live without at least for 5 days. We should stop doing that. And then we'll be able to come back without a challenge, just like we did over a week ago on the S4 system.
And in the interim, right, you talk about people using water sparingly. Have you found that people abide by these requests when you do make them? Because I know this is not the first pipeline repair work you're doing, at least not in recent months.
You know what? It's a mix of it, but we are beginning to realize that users are starting to understand and respond to the call. Last weekend, we just did the S4 pipelines. It was just one area that we had a challenge, and not even an extended challenge, just a bit of it, right towards the end of the maintenance work. So, and we do get calls and people who are sending us WhatsApps to say, hey, we're waiting for water to run out from, our taps, and we still had water throughout the period. So that is a sign that consumers are beginning to understand that we need to do the maintenance work, and they will play their part by reducing the consumption.
So which areas will be affected?
So in this case, I'll give you the municipalities, the localized areas. You can go into our website and Twitter and Facebook. But it is the city of Tshwane, city of Ekurhuleni, and city of Joburg that are going to be affected. Each one of those cities have posted those areas that are going to be affected within their spaces.
So hopefully we can still use you as an excuse to not arrive for work on Monday morning if we're out of water. AD Singo, thank you so much for your time.
You can use me for an excuse not taking a bath as well.
Hygiene comes first. Thank you very much for speaking to us today then about that maintenance of a pipeline this coming weekend. It'll start later today.